what about the solutions? We want to talk about solutions of what could work. And you all mentioned that. So what can we do? We can reduce the demand, and what else can we do? What would you suggest to the people here of a solution that they could do? Does anybody want to tackle that question? Kurt, or there goes Kurt. Yes, tell us.
Thank you, LoraKim. I think there are different solutions. Maybe Juan Carlos will present a different solution, but this problem that I presented, the main thing is to sensitize the authorities. We need to speak with Fish and Wildlife. We need to speak with Customs. We need to speak with CBP and other airport authorities, and even airlines. How come a bag full of eggs travels international flights from Nicaragua to the US and then to Singapore or Hong Kong? How come I don't even can take a bottle of cream or water in my luggage? So people are transporting eggs in their luggage. So we need to sensitize these people, let them know that the problem exists. When they know the problem exists, they can address it. They can start looking for something look like an egg. Maybe they just simply don't know, or people can transport, I don't know, chicken eggs. They're thinking other stuff. So I would say, talk to your authorities, send a letter to your representative, spread the word, just let people know, because this is an authority problem. They need to tackle at the airports, at the borders, with the airlines. So if you have contacts, if you have influence in I know that we have more than 185 people here. Some of you have influence. Talk to somebody, make a phone call, and let them know, let American Airlines or Avianca know that people are transporting parrot eggs in their luggage, and they're coming from Paraguay, they're coming from Guatemala, they're coming from Nicaragua and Honduras. Just let them know. And so when they know, they start doing things. And this is that happened. This is why there have been more seizures, because now some people know and they are start looking. So this is one thing that we can do as panel.
Great solution. That's something we can all do in our countries. Does any of the panelists want to talk about a different kind of solution, or something that these people can do right now? Before we go on to the next question, I'd like to ask you all.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. What Kurt said is absolutely very, very important. But I would also like to say that one of the things that we work on is that we want the people who were trapping the parrots originally were poor. They didn't have money. They didn't know how to feed their children. So they trapped a parrot and sold it. That was a long time ago. However, one of the ways we have found to help build these things and take care of our rescue centers, et cetera, is to go ahead, and we're in the process of bringing in indigenous crafts, things that actually come from the people that they make, and they make money for that. By making money, it helps them to take care of their families, and they're less apt to do the trapping. The second thing is we also do to raise money, to bring money back to help fight the battle over there, is ecotourism. We've been doing that for quite a while. We stopped during COVID, but that's coming back. That program is coming back. And also, yes, contact your local authorities. But once we're all done, this is all done, I will put some things down on our website where you can contact the Indonesian government and other places to make your complaint. They try to support us. They do the best we can, but we can make a difference. We just have to fight on all different levels.
Thank you, Bonnie. And Juan Carlos, you're gonna help us out more here. What are some ideas you have?
Well, I have two comments, and one of them you're not gonna like. The thing is that everybody expects the authorities to solve the problem of illegal trade, and they can't. It is impossible for them to solve the problem. It's if you understand what the number of seizures represent, then you'll know that it is impossible for them. In Mexico, we analyze the number of seizures and compare them to to our estimate of annual illegal trade. And the number of seizures represents around 2% of the illegal trade. So it is nothing. It is insignificant. And even if the authorities would get more budget, more personnel, it could rise to about 4%, and it's still insignificant. It will never, ever stop illegal trade. And that's not only happening in Mexico. In the U.S., the Fish and Wildlife Service, the number of seizures they can do on the border, it's around 10% for those shipments that come with documents. And for those shipments that don't have any documents, that are basically being smuggled in, it's around 1 or 2% as well. So they cannot stop it. It's impossible. And it's the same thing in the European Union. So we cannot expect for government authorities to stop illegal trade. If we are hoping that that's going to happen, it's not. So we have to be aware of this. And I'm not saying that we should not support government authorities, that we should not support them doing the seizures and all that. Yes, we do. And we have to help them, and we have to facilitate for them to do a better job. But that is not going to solve the problem. The problem, again, is the demand. As long as there is a demand, there's going to be illegal trade. And one of the things that Bonnie was saying, it is true. I mean, you have to work comprehensively on all sides of the trade. You have to work with the demand, and you also have to work with the traffickers. You have to give them opportunities to make money from some other sources. In Mexico, we have worked with Parrot watching. We have made a huge amount of parrot identification guides, bird identification guides, and it is starting to increase, and in some places it is starting to boom. This brings income into the communities, and then the communities will start caring about the conservation of those parrots, because it brings money to them. Okay. And not only to the few trappers in that community, but to the whole community. So that's one of the things that we have to support and promote all over the world, because more and more people are bird watching. And it is not just all the people in the US and Europe that go to these countries to watch birds. The number of nationals that are watching birds nowadays has increased. In Mexico, the number of Mexicans watching birds is 10 times bigger than the number of foreigners coming to watch birds. And it is increasing year after year after year. So that's one of the things that we can do in our countries to help the communities, but we need to stop the demand. And the thing is, when you're talking about international illegal trade, those campaigns has to be done on those countries, in Taiwan, in China, in the US, in Europe, wherever there's a demand for parrots, you have to do demand reduction campaigns in those countries.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Y'all are just doing excellent. And I'm going to weigh in now. and then we're going to have our last question before we go to questions from the group. The piece about community, that there's a term we call community conservation, where our best results, not always, but generally, is if local people involved. And it's only, in my perception, that the local people can change their own community and cultural expectations. They are the ones that have to do the work to convince one another. They live there, they're embedded in the communities. Outside people coming in and say, don't take your parrots, it's really difficult. So we want to work with the local communities over the long term so they can change their cultural expectations to reduce the demand. But I'm with you, Juan Carlos, even when we have the most devoted communities risking their lives, they can't stop it. because they don't have help from the government, and it's the demand and the prices and the violence and the corruption and the drug trafficking, and so it's just really, really hard to see long-term sustainable solutions with community conservation. And yet we are saving the scarlet macaws and the gray green macaws in Honduras for the amount of money to hire one forest ranger in the United States. We can have up to 400 people and various families, over 1 million acres protected, dropping from 100% to 20%. It's fragile, it's year by year, but it doesn't take much money because these people just need a little bit of resources to make their own choices, to do what they want to do, and to convince their cultural changes. And so my last question, or maybe we'll have time for more, is what you all touched on, is how little change and power we have, and that's why we're addressing the demand. We don't have control over governments. We've got international demand and buyers. We have corruption. So I want to ask the panelists, why do you do the work? Do you do it with or without hope? What can you help us here understand about your own struggle and where we can find hope and resilience to continue this work?
I've been in this business 21 years. I'm started there. I'm not giving up. I believe we can do it. It's frustrating. It's hard. But you can make little tiny bits of movement forward, and I think it's worth it. So I think that anybody that really feels strong about this should just stay in and keep fighting.
Okay, Juan Carlos, what are your words of wisdom for us?
Well, I've also been working on this for many, many, many decades. And I've seen the change. I've seen a decrease in the illegal trade of parrots. But I work with all kinds of species, plants and animals on illegal trade issues. And I know that if you do the work, more and more people are going to understand it. And one of the things that we have seen in Mexico is that more and more people understand that it is illegal and the parrots are endangered, and they are willing to denounce anybody selling illegal parrots. The number of denunciations in Mexico have increased year after year after year. So that means more and more and more people understand what's going on. And that's the important thing. If you can get more people and they can get more people to understand what's going on, eventually you're going to reach a time where most, if not all people, understand it, and this is going to stop.
I've also been at it for decades, coming on to completing 4 decades, and the days are hard. As they say in Lord of the Rings, we must go on without hope. And yet, I have seen such a change. People come up to me in various countries and cultures and say, I know this bird should not be in a cage. I know we should not be trapping birds. As a veterinarian, I know I should not be making a living working with captive birds. People know it has been a huge shift, and we just keep at it. We just keep at it. And with this conference and with all these people, we're just going to let more and more people know. And maybe we don't know how to save all of the parrots in Mexico and Honduras. We don't know how to stop the trade to Asia, but we can save lives right now. We can transform lives right now. And that's kind of why I keep at it. And Kurt, let's finish with you. What is your secret?
I think my secret is powered by people like you, LoraKim, because it only takes 1 or 2 people that are committed to change a lot of things in the world. A couple of weeks ago, Duchez released 20 scarlet macaws to the wild, and that's the lead of one person with a big team, but that's the lead and decision of one person. And we have been seeing changes in Mesoamerica because of your leadership. So it only takes 1 or 2 leaders to move an entire community and to save an entire species. So that's why I do it. Maybe someday I will inspire someone. Maybe someday maybe something that I say can change the thinking or the actions of some people, and I can do things like you're doing and a lot of people in this panel are doing. So that's why I do it, because it only takes one leader or two leaders to change a lot of things in the world, and not only in conservation.
Thank you, Kurt. I guess that would be one, maybe the last things I would say is, just keep at it. Keep at it for decades and years. Take time off. I had to take almost 10 years off, but you just keep at it, chipping away at it. It can make a difference. So we can continue. We're still all together, the panelists, but we want to make sure we recognize our participants with questions. And one question that I did see come up, and Juan Carlos, this is for you, and it may be a language thing. When we think of the word hoarder that we use so much in the United States, is people that have sort of a mental, not fixation, but a status where they over-collect and can't take care of, and their homes and their cages are often cluttered. Can you help us understand what you mean by hoarder?
Yeah, well, it's just a translation. In Spanish, it's acopiador.
Oh.
And that means just, this is the guy who will hire many trappers and goes and buys, when they have enough parrots, he comes around and buys them. And so he's gathering the parrots from many trappers, and he will only do a shipment when he has enough parrots to make a shipment worthwhile. And that means he will start gathering dozens of parrots until he has 100 or 200 or 300 or even more than 500 parrots to transport those parrots to a distribution center. So it's the word in Spanish is acopiador, and it translates to hoarder.
Thank you. That was helpful for many people to hear that. One of the other questions, maybe, I don't know if you can answer this, Kurt, is why Paraguay? What's happening in Paraguay that the Taiwanese group is going through there? Why Nicaragua? Why are those our two hubs for the Taiwanese criminal ring?
Okay, the Nicaragua is very easy because they have contacts with the embassy of Taiwan in Nicaragua, and the corruption money moves everything in Nicaragua right now. The corruption is rampant, and you can do anything with money. So that's why it's happening in Nicaragua. And in Paraguay, because it has the biodiversity of Brazil, it has the biodiversity of Guyana and other places, but they don't have the controls. So it's easier to bring things out of Paraguay, and they have the biodiversity and less controls. Very different scenarios, but very easy places to work for a trafficker.
Oh, okay, great. That's just really helpful, and that's sort of one of the other questions that comes up is, our species are so different, our governments are so different, the level of competency in our governments is so different. So based on what you know of wild populations and the trade, how do we as an international group work together across these differences? What is it that we can do right here? Not just solutions, but are there differences between countries? What are the differences? What do we need to know to work across the very different scenarios? Dictatorships, capitalistic countries, large urban areas. What are the things we need to be thinking of in this international movement?
Well, I can tell you that in Latin America, all the governments are the same. If you, I've talked to a huge amount of environmental authorities from Central and South America, and it's basically the same thing. There's a huge amount of corruption, and it's a cultural thing, basically, for Latin America. And we know that it's not only Latin America. In Africa, the corruption also is enormous, and also in many countries in Asia. So it's basically a worldwide thing. I mean, even in countries like the US and European countries, you're going to find corruption. Corruption is everywhere. If the price is right, people are just going to given. So, and the problem is that for some of our countries, the price can be right even if it's a very small price. Um, that's the problem, and that's one of the reasons why we should not depend on government authorities to solve the problem. And it's not only for parrots; it's for all illegal wildlife trade. There's a huge amount of corruption everywhere, and it's recognized by international institutions, by the UN, by CITES. They know there's a problem of corruption with many authorities in all over the world. So we have to be aware of that.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments on differences between countries and needing multicultural skills to do this work? How do we work together as a global group? Kurt, I see you're ready to say something.
Yes. How do we work together? Share information. That would be the answer. Share information. Because there are some things that you cannot tackle in your landscape or your country or region. But if you share information with people that you trust, then those people can do something. And you have a very huge network of people that love birds and want to do something about it. And someone will know someone else. And finally, you can get to the authorities, you can get to the government, you can get to the presidents, and you can get even people that know the traffickers, and then you can start doing something. So let's know each other, and then when we have a trust, let's share information.
I think trusting is a great comment, Kurt. You know, projects do better, conservation does better, organizations do better when there's social capital and high levels of emotional and social intelligence. And these don't come easy to us. And so we have to work at this. And that's what, again, this conference and the chat and the guidelines in our chats to talk with respect is how that we can maybe work together. And we're about ready to go on to our next segment. But Bonnie, did you want to say anything more on any of these topics?
Yeah, I just would like to say that I think that the group that's come together is phenomenal. And you have this huge database of people. Guys, I would love to find a way to have a smaller thing where we could just get together on a regular basis in Zoom and talk about our problems and share solutions and look together, because I think there's a lot we could learn from each other. And we're all over the world, but it would be so cool if we could do something like that in the future.
And I just say, LoraKim, that's what the IAPP is. That's why we came together. There's already been a group of us been active about a year now. And we invite every single person here to please join and let's grow this movement.